right. Hey, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Market Trading. I am your host, Vays. Coming to you live a few minutes before the markets open on this Tuesday morning, already towards the end of March. Time is really flying. Awesome new background. Shout out World of Rusty for another amazing work. I really wanted a financial summit background for the UAE over in Ras Al Khaimah, not far from Dubai. And the event will take place November 5 to 10. And this is the hotel that it's taking place in. So super, super cool. If you need some graphic design, guys, hit up World of Rusty on Twitter. Okay. Let's go to the charts. Okay, so I'm going to begin with the S&P 500. The S&P 500 is super important because the Fed rate decision will take place tomorrow. The market's going to open in a few minutes. Last week was a very positive week for the stock market. And this week has started off in the upwards direction. Now, Wednesday afternoon is going to decide absolutely everything. Until then, you really can't say much, but there is 3 points of resistance for the S&P 500 right now. Bitcoin broke 3 levels of resistance last week, and let's see if the S&P 500 can break 3 levels of resistance this week. I can tell you that if the S&P does go and break the January highs and makes a new yearly high, I will be incredibly bullish for the stock market. Now, don't forget the Arun. The Arun signaled a bullish trade over here in February. And this trade is now in the red, and it doesn't have too many more weeks to go before it completes as a bearish trade and tells you to get out. So it's really important for the S&P to break all 3 of these levels of resistance and start its bull market very, very soon. It's on the edge of a complete breakdown. We'll get back to this correlation in a minute. You can see that pre-market, the S&P is at a high not seen since before the banking panic of Silicon Valley Bank. The panic really started on Thursday. It capitulated on Friday. And then Monday was the big bailout, or making depositors whole. Either way, the price of the S&P is approaching the early March highs, which I think is really, really important. But the real challenge for the S&P is going to be breaking 4,160. Once it does, it should be off to the races. That would be the MRI resistance line. Okay, let's get to Bitcoin. Weekly chart. The week is holding steady after the enormous week we had last week. If we stay here much longer, I will now consider the 200-week moving average to be a very, very strong area of support. At the moment, it is still a weak area of support. 2 things will make it a strong area of support. All of next week staying above 27,000, or a push to 30,000 this week or early next week. Either of those 2 scenarios, either staying the rest of the month above 27 or a quick push up to 30. Either of those scenarios will make the 200-week moving average currently at 25,500, very strong support. Until that happens, I still consider it a weak support, but still support. Our Consensio allocation chart. Today is the last day of the current 4-day candle. This is a 4-day chart. Normally, Tyler Jenks used to use the weekly chart, which had 5 days of data, trading 7 hours a day. We are using 4 days of data, which trade 24 hours a day, but the majority of that time, Bitcoin is not very liquid. So I think that's a great counterbalance to mimic the traditional weekly chart as much as possible, as far as how much information is absorbed by Bitcoin. This has been a pretty good chart in identifying position trades in Bitcoin. I made mistakes on this chart, of course, over the last couple of years by not sticking 100% with Consensio and adding some other analysis. That has always proven to be problematic. So now I try to stick to Consensio as much as possible, ignoring everything else, though the MRI is still on this chart. But only the major turning points, not like the stars or anything like that. Hey guys, as you saw in my background when the stream opened, one more shout out for the Financial Summit. We're about to release some videos from our last event in Bali, testimonial videos, a new promo video. So check that out. You can check out the website for some of the details. Now that the price is rising, people are getting more interested in this event. I expect a full sellout, and a sellout for an event like this is 50 to 60 villas out of a resort that only has 100 villas. So we pretty much have the entire thing. Those that want to fly all the way out to the UAE can come out to Vegas, where we will be hosting Unconfiscatable for the 4th year, not in a row due to COVID shutdown, and Vegas being a very blue state. They decided to put plastic barriers between people playing blackjack, and they had to wear masks or they get kicked out of the casino unless they were smoking. So you were allowed to remove your mask inside the casino indoors if you were a smoker. But if you're not a smoker, you are forced to wear a mask. How's that for science? So what I used to do on planes is I used to eat the entire flight so that I don't have to wear a mask. But if I was in Vegas during this time, I would have had to become a smoker in order to avoid wearing the mask. Check us out on all kinds of social media. Well, it's not a conspiracy. I was in Vegas during COVID, and you don't have to wear a mask if you were a smoker. There's no conspiracy about it. You can be gambling at a slot machine as long as you're smoking. You don't have to wear a mask. But if you're not smoking, the security would come over and tell you to put your mask on. That was reality. I witnessed it with my own eyes. I would love for someone to explain this to me from a medical perspective. Oh, it's not happening now, but this was happening in 2021. So that's why we didn't have a conference in 2021. Here's the daily chart of Bitcoin. So today is the one day where I would not go long Bitcoin in a speculative trade. This is the one day. I never go long on bullish candles that follow an MRI top. Now, tomorrow is a whole different ballgame. If tomorrow we are breaking today's high, I become very, very bullish. And I would expect this move to go significantly higher. It's also very ironic that tomorrow happens to be the Fed rate decision, usually at around 2 p.m. Man, I had all these videos on the FOMC drift. If you have time today, Google FOMC drift. Drift. There you go. FOMC drift. And read this paper. Read this paper from 2013, well, 2011, technically. And then there was an update to this paper in 2018, and it showed even a bigger correlation. Now, the real stuff is on page 30 or so. Jesus Christ. Anyone else hate the new Adobe in browser? It's terrible. Absolutely terrible. I don't know how to stop it. Like, it doesn't, it's just terrible. I don't know what page it was on, and like this thing takes like 3 hours to load. I mean, I can download the paper. Like, I can't see anything. Like, it just doesn't load. I don't know how to open it like in the old way. Like, you can't find anything anymore. Like, I'm looking for a specific chart, but I can't find it when this thing doesn't. It shows me mostly blank papers. Sorry, guys. It's impossible. I want to show it to you like I usually do, but I don't know how to open this normally. Like, well, like this extension is terrible. Maybe I should delete the extension or something. Like, Microsoft is terrible, but I'm still never going to use a Mac. So, like I said, the one year I had a Mac, I didn't use computers. I didn't use it. I wanted to throw it through a wall. I couldn't get anything done. Being able to change file names while you're using them is not worth not being able to do anything else. I thought it was on like around page 30 or something. There it is. There it is. I can't imagine owning a restaurant in Michigan, period. It's too freaking cold. So the best day in the stock market historically is tomorrow. So from the early 1990s all the way until recently, till at least 2018, because there was a follow-up study done on data from 2011 to 2018. If the only time you own stocks was the day of the Fed rate decision, you replicated the entire gains of the stock market for the last 30 years. So this is the one day you want to own stocks. On average, on this day alone, the stocks rise 0.5%. That's the FOMC drift. Very interesting paper. I mean, I read it over a decade ago. And there was an article follow-up. From 2018. The hell is this? From the National Institute of Health, the disappearing pre-FOMC announcement drift. Why is this in a medical publication? Someone explain that to me? That could be interesting, actually. Anyway. Oh, this is me looking at like the Ukraine situation. Man, by the end of this month, there's going to be some serious news on what's going on over there. Another really, really good chart. So when I did this video yesterday, we were on this candle here. We were just starting the 8 a.m. candle on the 20th of March. Right now, this is the 8 a.m. candle. Notice the difference. This is a green star candle, so it's bullish. But we have not yet broken the consolidated high. I can even lower this line right here to the body of that doji candle, right there. We are right at that top. As I stated yesterday, I don't have a problem going leverage long for approximately 4 to 6 hours upon the break of the prior consolidated high. It's worked out each of the last 6 times. And here comes try number 6 or try number 7, I don't remember. So I don't see any difference here. This is even better because we consolidated for longer. The longer we consolidate, the stronger the breakout. So on this candle or next candle, I don't have a problem going long short term. This is not a contradiction versus the daily chart. The daily chart is not a multi-hour trade. The daily chart is a multi-day trade. The hourly chart is a multi-hour trade. I would go a few hours long, but not for a few days. So this is a very different environment, completely different. But tomorrow's the big day. Tomorrow's the big day. Well, I'm not going to see the data here for another 10 minutes. I want a 15-minute delay. So nothing I can do. Heard oil had a little bit of a rebound yesterday. Let's see where this goes. We are holding the MRI support line. I will only be bullish on oil if it breaks 85. Until it breaks 85, I'm going to be cautious. Natural gas did not follow suit yesterday, and it remained a bit at the lows. And there it is. So natural gas is approaching a 2-year low. That is also very surprising. Very, very surprising. I really expected natural gas to go into the death cross here and then reevaluate the situation. I have been somewhat wrong on energy over here. I really thought that we would go up in energy with China opening up and the military conflict in Ukraine. But low gas, cheap gas and cheap oil will bring inflation down. So Powell will be able to, save face and not have to raise rates as much. Gold has broken very critical resistance, and I am now bullish on gold. Silver is not even close. But I can close the silver chart now. I'm done selling my silver. Oh, the S&P just rallied. Look at that. S&P rallies at the open. It broke all 3 of these resistance levels on a weekly scale. That's great. Bitcoin should be rallying a bit as well. It's a green star candle here. Looking nice. Now here's Credit Suisse on a weekly scale, down at $1. I was doing some research into currencies. I was updating my list. I don't know if you guys saw my Twitter or unconfiscatable Twitter. Peterson Ange is great. He's a great economist. Should follow him. I met him back in the days of Acapulco, like, I don't know, 7-8 years ago or something. So his presentation. He's a very Austrian leaning PhD economist. Very libertarian. And he does have a PhD in economics. Like he's he's not a pretend PhD economist, right? He's like so where was I going with this? Oh yeah, tweets and replies probably. Well, I can just go to my Twitter. Yeah, so I've kept this update. So this was from a book. So these are all the hyperinflations. Also follow the Financial Summit. I mean, this is where a lot of research gets tweeted out. So Balaji posted this of all of the historical hyperinflations, not all of them. I think he started with like Hungary or something. But I looked at this book about a decade ago. This is back when I was doing real research. And I kept it going. Like the book was written in 2008, and the last one they did was Zimbabwe. So I kept this going, and I spent like several hours yesterday looking for other hyperinflations that took place more recently. So if you look at my Twitter now, replies, I had to add a few. My list is now longer, and then I had to add Zambia as well. So I was looking at all these other currencies. So just think about it. This list is now longer. I added a few last night. This is how many countries have hit hyperinflation since the year 2010. This is since 2010. So this is a list of at least like 20. Yeah, 20. And there's like 2 more now. So there's over 20 countries. So that's more than 1 per year. More than 1 country per year is hitting hyperinflation. Now, you can say that none of these countries matter, but this is hundreds of millions of people. Because Russia's on this list, and Russia twice, by the way. Russia alone has 160 million. Ukraine has 30 million, well, had 30 million. Now probably about closer to 20. But like these are not small countries. The Democratic Republic of the Congo is a huge country. Zimbabwe is not a small country. It's on a list over here as well. Turkey is a huge country. Like these are not small. These are not small, insignificant countries. And we're averaging 1 hyperinflation per year. Wait till it happens to the euro, and then people will probably notice. Okay, I am about 85 to 90% confident that the Fed will raise 25 basis points. And the market almost agrees with me at 82%. Let's see what other... today, we only had the existing home sales. That was at 10 a.m., and which hasn't happened yet. So we haven't even had it yet. And we'll know We'll know the oil strategic reserve on Wednesday. All right, I got nothing else. We got spaces in 20 minutes over at Swan. Yeah, so if you go through all these currencies, can I use the down arrow here? We're looking at weekly charts. This is the Australian dollar versus Japanese yen. Why am I even looking at that? Australian dollar versus the dollar. So Australian dollars in US dollars. So when this thing goes down, the Australian dollar sucks. I need a longer term scale here. It's hanging in there. I don't know how to explain it, but it's hanging in there. Same as New Zealand. The euro. Shouldn't there be like a rotation here? What happened to all of my... There it is. Eventually shows up. Euro is hanging in there, but I don't know if that'll last. Swiss franc against the euro. I'm slightly more bullish on the Swiss franc against the euro, but they're going to go down together. Euro versus the pound. It's hard to look at these currencies in this form. I'm just going straight to the USD stuff. British pound and dollars. I mean, that's a nasty downtrend. And I don't think the UK will make it. That's a nastier downtrend than the prior downtrend. Yeah, the UK, the pound's going to go sub parity. Japanese yen hit its low a little while ago, but it's not looking good for the yen. Eventually, the Canadian dollar will grossly devalue against the US dollar. Marxism will take hold in Canada completely. Just wait till you elect Trudeau for the 18th time, and then maybe you'll learn. Brazil's been hanging in there. This is a good trend for Brazil. I really thought I was close on the target. It's a very nasty pattern there. Swiss franc will also devalue against the US dollar. Man, why is this taking so long to update? Not looking good for the Scandinavian currencies. Oh, that's a horrible pattern. Indian rupee. Oh boy. Yeah, but I think that is a coordinated attack by the US on India because India doesn't want to take the US side in Russia, Ukraine. Mexico is doing great. Mexico is trying to join the BRICS. Mexico is strengthening nicely. Congrats, Mexico. Scandinavia again. Should probably move Mexico down. So the Scandinavia stuff's next to each other. Indian rupee too. Norway, Sweden. Yeah, not good. Finland. Finland's doing okay, but Mexico already did. Turkey. Turkey continues its hyperinflation. That is hyperinflation. It's slowed down, but it's technically still in hyperinflation. India, we covered. The Russian ruble. Let's see. Russian ruble is not looking great. I'm a little surprised as well. But they have as long as they don't break this 81, but also Russia targets 4% inflation, the way US targets 2% inflation. The Ukrainian currency is being held steady by the United States. Once a year, they can't hold the peg, and it devalues, 25 to 50%. So they're overdue for a depegging because the United States government could only pay every Ukrainian government employee and their pensions for so long. And if a new US regime takes over, then that immediately ends, and the US currency will go into hyperinflation. So if you are holding Ukrainian currency, I strongly advise you to convert it to something, not like your savings. I don't care, gold, Bitcoin, anything, dollars. Every single Ukrainian government employee gets paid by the United States taxpayer. I mean, that's only gonna happen for so long. Eventually, that's gonna end. Singapore. Singapore is strengthening a little bit. Thailand. Thailand's hanging in there. South Africa. Ooh, not good. Not good. Terrible looking chart. Got a couple MRI tops here, but terrible looking chart. This Israel? Yeah, the Israeli shekel. Not good. Not good. Czech Republic's hanging in there. Wow. Looking decent. Hungary hanging in there as well. A little surprised. Look at that beautiful MRI top and MRI bottom. Indonesia. Not good. Not good. Whoa. Should that have made my hyperinflation list in 2020? No, that's only 20%. Nah, I could have made it. Yeah, but it didn't continue. Had this continued, I would have added it to my hyperinflation list. Beautiful MRI top here and here and here. Wow. All right, I got my moderator sending me questions. Play devil's advocate, make a bearish argument for Bitcoin. That would be very difficult right now. Very difficult. The Philippines is hanging in there. But you can see from a TA perspective, it came back to its prior swing high. So beautiful MRI top. Yeah, it's hanging in there. Not bad. Egypt. I think Egypt's in trouble. Yep. Yeah, this is why Egypt's on my hyperinflation list. Shit hit the fan in Egypt in 2022. See, that's hyperinflation. Since 2022, the Egyptian currency is down 100%. So in a year and a half, in a year, basically, you lost half your money. That's hyperinflation, folks. Costa Rica. Wow, look at that. So I remember I looked at Costa Rica last year and I was concerned. Whatever the hell Costa Rica did in June 2022, it's working. Now, Costa Rica went a little bit crazy with their lockdowns. I think they killed some surfer because he wasn't wearing a mask. And that really pissed people off, and people stopped going to Costa Rica. So you see their currency completely imploding throughout the 2020 and 2021. And whatever they did right here on the day of the weekly MRI top worked. And look at their currency strengthening. That's awesome. So if you're going to Costa Rica, shit's going to be 20% more expensive for you with your US dollars. That's a great question. I'm gonna throw it in. Yep, it's already in there. M. Palenque. Great question. Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka hit 100% in a matter of a month when their country collapsed. It's strengthening now. This is Sierra Leone. Hyperinflation, folks. That's what it looks like. Sierra Leone was on my list. ARS, Argentina? Yeah, Argentina should be... I got to order these properly. Like Argentina shouldn't be next to Sierra Leone. It should be next to Costa Rica. That makes more sense. And next to Brazil as well. I got to order these by region. This is Argentine peso. It's what hyperinflation looks like. Look at that. Look at that. I still have a bunch of Argentine pesos in my drawer. I was there in 2016 for a Bitcoin conference, and I was leaving with like $80 worth of pesos, and I was rushing to the airport, and I was about to convert them into Bitcoin, and it would have been 0.2 Bitcoin. That's how Bitcoin was cheap. It was like $400. And I was like, hey, should I convert this $80 worth of pesos to Bitcoin for 0.2 Bitcoin? And I'm like, nah, I'm busy. It's okay. I'll be back in a few months and I'll need cab money. That $80 in Argentinian peso is now about $3, and 0.2 Bitcoin is now about $5,000. I have not used ChatGPT. This is Sri Lanka again. Oh, no, I moved the other one up. That's fine. Iran. I just added this to my list. Iran is in hyperinflation as well. Again, US sanctions do get small countries into trouble. This is Suriname. And they are also on my list as a country in hyperinflation. Ethiopia, not in hyperinflation. It looks bad, but I don't have it because it never actually devalued greatly in a single month. It just like devalues by like 10%. Slowly, slowly, slowly. It really is in hyperinflation technically. Like you wouldn't want to be here. So since 2019, it's lost 80%, but it's 3 years. It's not 80%, sorry. It lost 40% in 3 years, which is not really hyperinflation, but it's bad. Korea hanging in there. Korea should be way higher. I don't know why it's over here. Like Korea should be like up there somewhere. Lebanon, Lebanese pound, they're definitely in hyperinflation. Boom, they just devalued their currency by 1,000%, 900 to be exact. So, you know, one day your dollar buys a Big Mac and the next day $10 buys a Big Mac. That's basically what Lebanon did. So you can understand why people are walking in with their guns into the bank demanding their money. This is Ghana. I don't know what the hell Ghana did, but they were in massive hyperinflation last year. That's why I added them to my list. Last year, the currency lost about 65% in value, topped on an MRI, and I guess they redenominated, but I'm sure their inflation problems didn't go away. And this is Zambia, recent addition to my list. They did something to help themselves, but clearly it didn't stick. Sudan, there's South Sudan and there's Sudan. They're next to each other. Obviously, South Sudan is south of Sudan, though you'd be surprised with some of the naming conventions that we have in the world. And they devalued in one day 600%. So your currency lost 70% of its value in one day. And finally, we have Angola. And Angola was in hyperinflation from 2018 to 2020. So in 2 years, it lost 300%. Well, it devalued 300%. So it lost two doublings. So it lost 75% of its value, two doublings. USD PRK, that's not on my list. It's hard. There's so many currencies. So USD PRK is not here. That's the problem. What's PRK? Is that Pakistan? What's Pakistan currency? BKG. I already did Colombian peso. Yeah, I don't have that one. USD PKG, I don't have it. Not every currency is available. There was another currency I really wanted to pull up, but I couldn't. I forgot what it was. Oh, Zimbabwe. Like, I really want to see the Zimbabwe exchange rate, but they don't have it. USD Colombian peso. I'm surprised I don't have it. Is it COP? Yeah. Not good. Not good. Looks bad. Not hyperinflation. Maybe here. 3-week window, 25%. That's pretty bad. Losing 25% in 3 weeks, that's bad. PKR. Oh, my bad. USD PKR. Yeah, there it is. Pakistan rupee. Oh, yeah. Okay, that's bad. USD PKR. It's 10 a.m. We're going to go back to the markets. I just wanted to do like a currency look through. Like I said, I got to order these by region. Any instances of hyperinflation? What is this? 20% in 2 weeks. That's bad. And then it continued. Again, 20% in 2 weeks. Yeah, it's not going to make my list, but it's close. It's close. Since last year. Yeah, you're down 60%. Since last year, well, you're up 60% in devaluation. So you lost about 30% of your purchasing power in a year and change. It's bad. I don't think China's going to lock down. I looked at Turkey already. 10 a.m. Let's go take a look and see what's going on. Market is still strong. Will we see a 10 a.m. reversal? Let me see. Yeah, this is what I would like to see when trying to time a 10 a.m. reversal. I don't really care for the 1 minute MRI, but the market opens right here. And since market open, we are up 10 points, but it wasn't straight up, you know? Wasn't straight up. 5 minute candle. Should be a new candle coming in. or this is the 10 a.m. candle. I mean, I wouldn't short yet. Today's a strange day. I wouldn't short today. Remember, the FOMC drift the day before the rate announcement is also usually an update. Now, if this ends as a shooting star candle, all bets are off. But today is a tricky day to go short. I'd rather go long. I would have rather seen it go down into 10 a.m. and go long because I'm fighting the 30-year statistic here. How hard is the resistance at 4,000? Not hard. It's not hard. It's not a hard resistance. It's very soft. This is very soft resistance because you are above resistance already. The 4,000 is just a round number that has not really been support or resistance at any point. So if I draw a horizontal line at 4,000, not 400, if I draw this horizontal line and I go, come on, 4,000, you can see how this line actually is meaningless. It broke right through it the first time around. There was no resistance. It broke right through it to the downside, broke back over to the upside, broke back down to the outside. Here you can claim it's resistance, but I would say it was more the descending trend line. And then we broke right through it again, and now we're sitting right at it. So the 4,000 is actually not resistance to me at all. It's all about these three: the supporting trend line, which we broke to the downside, and the 2 moving averages. I don't want to look at charts today, stocks. I went through currencies today. Maybe tomorrow we can go through stocks. And then the next day we can go through shitcoins again. I don't know. Oh, we're back to 955. Look at that. It was tough finding some blocks. This thing was like at 8 and change earlier, like a day or two ago. The green star is now gone, which is okay. But if we break 28.3, I can certainly see a bullish trade there. Ideally, it breaks it tomorrow. Oh, wait, I had questions. Tone, can you play devil's advocate and make the bearish argument for Bitcoin? In the past, you have respected def crosses and Bitco. I'm not sure what that means. It's hard for me to make the bearish case for Bitcoin because fundamentally, economically, on-chain and technical analysis all point to more upside. It's very, very hard. But this is a similar question. Oh, Jiggy, it's still, let's see. In the past, you have also said that during a recession, everything falls, even things like gold. Why do you think Bitcoin would be any different? Because this is a different environment. It's a slightly different environment. Something has to rise. See, normally in a recession, government bonds rise in price because the interest rate is dropping. There is no everything bubble. That is whichever guru you're listening to that says everything bubble is an idiot. There's no such thing as an everything bubble. Money has to go somewhere. It has to go somewhere, right? At the least, it's going like it can somewhere. Money is going somewhere, right? If there's nowhere else for money to go, it's going to go to the strip club. Like money is going to go somewhere. So if anyone is saying it's an everything bubble, that person does not belong in anything related to finance. Something will go down and something will rise. And you may be wrong about what that something is, but there's no such thing as an everything bubble. So in the past, when there was a recession, when there was a crash, what went up? And what went up was government bonds. Okay? When everything else crashes, government bonds would rise. So if you look at the ETF, just the easiest way to look at it, right? I don't know how far my data is. Hopefully it goes like, there it is. So in the past, pre-2020, it only goes to here. But we can take this to the 80s, right? We can look at the 10-year interest rate. If it ever loads. So in the last 40 years, since the 1980 interest rate top, I might have to go monthly. Since the 1980 interest rate top, whenever the market crashed, the government bonds went up, the money went into government bonds, okay? Because bonds become more valuable because they have a higher interest rate from before. So this is why PIMCO and all these bond funds that were nonstop profiting for 40 years are now blowing up. So there is no everything bubble. Gold crashes, stocks crash, commodities crash, bonds go up. But what's happening now? Now the interest rate's rising. So bonds are not going to go up. Money is not going to flow into government bonds. So the money has to flow somewhere. It will not be government bonds. Government bonds is becoming the risky asset. You just saw banks blow up because they were holding government bonds. So the safest asset for 40 years has just become a liability. So assuming you're not a fool thinking that there is an everything bubble, if the money is not going to go into government bonds, only fools would buy government bonds right now. Where is the money going to go? You have commodities, you have equities, you now have Bitcoin, you have real estate, you have physical cash. These are your options, right? Or you go blow it at a strip club. These are your options. Money is going to go somewhere. These are your options. Okay? But it's not going to be government bonds. That just became a risky asset. And it's not going to be money at the bank. That also just became risky. It's not going to go into foreign governments. You're not going to put your money in China. You're not going to put your money in Russia. You're not going to put your money in Europe. You're not going to put your money in Africa. Maybe you got a shot at Latin America, but they're not exactly electing, capitalist leaders. Maybe El Salvador is a place to park your money. But Brazil just elected a communist. Colombia just elected a communist. I mean, hopefully they don't do stupid shit, but they definitely lean left. I think the Brazil election was not fair at all. It wasn't as bad as the US one, but it was close. From an honest election perspective. So the money's got to go somewhere. And I think the money is going to go into risky assets, equities, US stocks and Bitcoin, and some gold. And you also have to realize that government bonds have 10 times more money sitting in them than stocks do. This is the real bubble. This has been a 40-year bubble in government bonds. China is selling all US debt. So if China is selling all US debt, who is buying US debt? You can, I mean, like, we can maybe Google it, like never Google on live air, who is buying US debt? It's going to be US debt. It's going to be internal inside the US. We're buying our own debt, which is stupid. It's like buying stock of your own company. So that if your company goes bust and you get fired, your investment portfolio also goes to zero. You want to diversify. So who's buying US debt? It's going to be Japan, it's going to be Europe, and it's going to be America. US Treasury owned by China in USD billions. China owns $1 trillion of the total 28 trillion US debt. That's 2021. Do you know what it is now? It's under 800. China is selling US debt. I need a more recent statistic. See, this is 22. I need 23. Let's look at it in the past month. China's holdings of US Treasury last year shrank by 173 billion. That was last year. They're selling a lot more this year. China's preparing for a military confrontation with the US. They are selling US government bonds. They want to own zero. They want to be in Russian position. Russia holds zero US debt. China wants to hold zero American debt. Five days ago, China cuts US Treasury holdings to lowest level since when? Since global financial crisis. Okay. China holds. I hate that pop-up. I don't know how to get rid of it. I don't want to be logged in as Google to anything. Yeah, they're down to 600. Every month, they are selling $10 billion worth of US debt. Someone has to buy that. Someone has to buy that. Yeah, you can buy wine. I wouldn't buy wine, but you can buy wine. I'd be too I wouldn't be able to maintain the wine. I bought like $1,000 bottle of wine. I would ruin it in a year because I'm never like, I don't know how to maintain wine properly. My favorite wines are in the $20 to $30 range at a store. Yeah, but who's holding it? Anyway, you guys get the idea. Yeah, Japan's been buying up American debt like a drunken sailor. I don't know where they're getting the money from. Probably why their currency is devaluing. Anyway. Let's get back to the AMA. So this is why it's different this time. Because I think the money is going to flow from the safest asset for the last 40 years up until Powell started raising rates. And I don't think he's going to stop. So the safest asset becomes the most dangerous asset, and the money has to flow somewhere. And I think a lot of it's going to flow into Bitcoin with all these banking problems. Tone, here's a thought. ARK coin is trying to close above 200 day AMA. Is coin going to be ARK's new Tesla if we go risk on? Probably. I don't know how ARK's doing. Are they a little bit better? That went into hyperinflation. I mean, they're hanging in there. I don't know. I wouldn't buy ARK. I wouldn't buy ARK. I remember you were expecting another drop in 2019, and then it happened with COVID. Why were you not expecting another drop this time? Oh, there's a major reason why. You see, when 2019 started, I was very skeptical on this run-up. And this run-up never had a pullback. And also, right here at the top, the market went into unreasonable backwardation. Agriel Goat and I did an episode on this week, and we were calling for a monster top in Bitcoin for at least a 50% correction. Now, I honestly thought that this correction, while I wanted to see it go a little bit lower, I thought it was good enough. And even I did not anticipate this big crash. But the moment the crash happened, I became a huge bull. So even this candle caught me a little bit by surprise. I was mostly anticipating this. I was anticipating that drop. I was not anticipating this drop. I did win a bet because of this drop, which I haven't collected on yet. Rand from Crypto Man Rand owes me a very expensive steak dinner. And the higher the price of Bitcoin will be at the time we meet, the more expensive that dinner is going to be. I'm going to hurt him big time, so he can afford it. But this time around is different. It's very different. First of all, we already corrected right here from 25,000 to 20,000. Something we never did over here from 4,000 to 14. That's huge. And we're not going up nowhere near as fast as we did over here. So if we were to go straight up to 40,000, then I would be expecting something like this. But even then, I wouldn't be expecting it to be as bad because we already had a proper correction on the way up. So this is a very different environment. Okay, here we went straight up for 200% with absolutely no pullback longer than 1 week. Here is very different. Even if we cherry pick the low of the breakout, which I didn't over there, we only went up 60%, not 200. And we already had a 20% correction within it that lasted for 3 weeks. So this is a way more stable up move than what we had in 2019. And the more stable the up move, the less I'm scared of a major turn to the downside. Very, very different environment. Also, the price here is not that different than the price here, but it was like 4 years ago. Like Bitcoin is way more undervalued today at 20,000 than it was over here at 10,000. It's way more undervalued now. All right, next question. Do you think BRICS will take Bitcoin into consideration as a store of value? No, not really. Look, if South Africa doesn't understand why Bitcoin's important, none of the other guys will. So maybe Russia would consider it as a store of value. India's not. South Africa doesn't seem to know what Bitcoin exists, and Brazil sure doesn't. So not anytime soon. If the BRICS create a military alliance, but India is not going to be down for that, but Russia and China will be. If the Russia and China create a military alliance, like a real military alliance, first of all, that's really bad for the US. That's really bad for the US. US does not want to go to war with China and Russia. The neocons in the US think they can win a war between China and Russia. In reality, China could attack the West Coast, and Russia and their submarines can attack the East Coast. It's bad. Like, the United States might actually be surrounded. Not to mention Mexico would probably join Russia and China. And Russia would just take Alaska and Canada. Like, it's the US thinks they can win it, but they can't. They will actually be surrounded, which is why what they're doing right now is so stupid. But I don't think that's going to happen. I don't think that kind of World War III is going to happen. I don't eat sandwiches. I don't eat bread. There is no favorite sandwich. It doesn't exist. If SBF did manipulate Bitcoin price, we would have a better sense of its value today. Maybe. Maybe. I actually don't think the US military is all that strong. The United States has never really fought in a real war. They sent World War II was as close as they came, and they joined at the end, and they just send a few troops. Russia fought most of that against the German army. And the wars in the Middle East don't count. They were fighting people that had no ability to fight back. So the US military in Vietnam, but again, when was the last time the US won like a war? The last time US was in a real war was actually like the Civil War. Yes, the US sent troops in World War I towards the end, and the US sent troops to World War II towards the end, but they were helping other armies. The US might have swayed the tide and created victory, but the US came in to help other armies win that war. And Vietnam, US lost. Korea, I mean, they helped win. But that's it. And nothing in the last 20 years counts because they weren't fighting an enemy that can fight back. So US doesn't actually have much experience in a real war. Neither does China, by the way. It's not that China is even better. China's worse. China's worse. But Russia has experience. Russia has experience. And they just got a lot of experience fighting the NATO-trained, biggest NATO-trained army in all of Europe. They're fighting them now. Now, again, if Russia and China was to attack the US, they would be at a huge disadvantage because they're not on their soil. But if the US tried to attack Russia, Russia would have a huge advantage because it's on Russian soil, or at least closer to Russia. So it would be very, very challenging for anyone to attack US because of their geographical position. Like, in order for Russia and China to successfully attack US, Russia would first have to take Canada and Alaska. It would be hard for US to, not hard, but it would be possible for US to supply Alaska and defend Alaska. They have to go, through Canada, and Canada would, of course, open up their country. But the only way that the United States would have trouble fighting back against Russia, China, is if Mexico joins China and say Russia takes Alaska, Canada, and now the U.S. doesn't have a home field advantage anymore because the war is happening on the ground. But Russia would have the same logistical problem supplying their troops in Canada that the U.S. would potentially have in supplying their troops in Alaska. That's a lot of ground to cover there in the winter, especially. I personally don't see how NATO can possibly win, even if they joined Ukraine. Russia has the geographical advantage. Nukes would probably end up flying, which is why the US isn't exactly eager to officially join the situation. But yeah, I would take China and Russia in Europe over NATO, like with a 5-to-1 advantage. Because remember, it's not going to be just China and Russia. It would be China, Russia, Iran, and North Korea. Civil War, Spanish-American War, I mean, those were the wars where the United States had experience in, like, really, because they were the primary. It was taking place on their soil. That's where military generals actually, gets experience. The US will not have air superiority in Ukraine. They would get shut down by surface-to-air missiles. The US had air superiority in the Middle East because they were able to pull up their Navy flight carriers in the Gulf. They will not have that. They will not be able to do that in the Black Sea. They will not be able to get their Navy in there. So how is the US going to be able to supply fuel to those to their air superiority? I think it's very possible Bitcoin hits 30K tomorrow. It really depends on what the Fed says, if we want to take it back to Bitcoin. The US has, back to the war scenario, the US has no advantage in troops. The only advantage US has is if the US has a better military technology than Russia and China do. They have better military technology than China, but Russia, that's debatable. Russia has hypersonic missiles. US doesn't. So it's very debatable whether Russia has better military technology. The United States would be able to do jack shit if China decided to invade Taiwan tomorrow. How? How is the US going to do anything? They will not be able to get their Navy there. Their Navy would get taken out by hypersonic missiles that Russia will provide to China. They would wipe out every single Navy ship that the US sends. How is the US going to defend Taiwan? How? Yeah, they're going to raise interest rates. I'm expecting it to raise 25 basis points, yes. And I still expect the market to rally. Well, the 10 a.m. reversal certainly happened. I don't know if I would have taken the trade. I probably would have chickened out. But the 10 a.m. reversal certainly worked. Look at that. That's a 5-minute chart, too. $20-point move off of 10 a.m. The US has 4 carrier groups in Southeast Asia right now. Yes, and they will have 0 if they try to defend Taiwan. Well, like China will take them out. You don't know what tech the US has. Yes, I do. Because the West even tells Russia when and where they're going to attack and with what. Of course we do. Like the US is proud to announce to the world what tech they have. It's Russia that's secretive about what tech they have. The US can't keep their mouth shut. Everybody knows what tech US has. They're too public about it. And when they have nothing better to do, they leave it in the Middle East and just get out of the country. Right, the way Russia took down that drone in the Black Sea, they now have that tech too, because the way they took it down with fuel, they salvaged the whole thing, and the US tried getting the Romanians to get to it first, but it was so close to Crimea, the Russians got to it real quick. I didn't do shitcoin charts. Wow, still going down. This 10 a.m. reversal is super strong. We're living in a day and age where a strong Navy will no longer win a war, where prior to this age, the strongest Navy generally won, unless, the war was being fought in the middle of Russia. Naval superiority has been, the primary force that was winning wars. Even in World War II, Russia had the ground expertise, and the US came with their navy. But navy no longer matters as much. Strong navy will no longer win the next war. US still has a good position from a geographic perspective, which is why no one's going to be invading the US anytime soon. All right, I think the drop's over. That is a beautiful reversal candle. And it's time for the market to reverse, go back up. I have no thoughts on Casa. I was never a fan of the project. Not from day one. I was never a fan of Casa. Why would I have an opinion? Who is most likely to launch the first nuke? Probably Russia. Probably Russia. Russia would most likely launch first. Which is why you may not want to keep antagonizing them. I mean, Russia threw the first punch, right, in Ukraine. Oh, there goes the market turning. I expected that. Yeah, beautiful 10 a.m. reversal. Right there on that 1 minute shooting star. Right at 10:01. By the way, dropping the first nuke does not make you insane. The US dropped the first nuke in World War II. By that logic, if dropping the first nuke makes you insane, then the US was insane to drop it on Japan. Now, where it would be dropped is a completely different question. I don't think it would be in America. It would be one of America's proxies. Either Ukraine or Poland or whatever. UK. Guys, you don't really need a reason not to like something. I never liked Casa. I need a company to prove to me that they care about Bitcoin And from day one, Casa never did. They gave me the impression that they wanted to control your node. They gave me the impression that they were into shitcoins. They never instilled a feeling that they're there for Bitcoin, like Swan is, like Start9 is. There are companies that care about Bitcoin and to help people use Bitcoin. Casa from day one never created that feeling that the company culture wanted to make Bitcoin better for people in a way. It's a similar feeling I had with Balaji's companies like the 21E or whatever. Oh, market was looking good. I'm still leaning bullish right now. But if we approach the lows, I'm going to end that view. Yeah, if you go back to the Bitcoin news shows, I was always critical of Casa, even back, when they launched. I never bought into their model. All right, guys, this show's lasted long enough. I suggest you. I just started looking at this map more recently. This is Institute of Study of War. They're supposed to be neutral. This map has a pro-Western bias. So this map is more pro-Ukraine. This map is supposed to be neutral. Now, I like looking at the pro-Ukraine map because if this map shows the territories controlled by Russia, it's really controlled by Russia because these guys are way more pro-Ukraine than they are pro-Russia. So this is still my go-to map. The reason I started looking at this map is because this map very clearly has the borders of Ukrainian regions, which are very hard to tell apart on this map or on a Google map, which this is. So it's the lines of the regions are very faint. It's that dashed dotted line that you can't see. But I can see that line here. And these lines are very important because according to Russia, this region is Russia. And so is this region. So everything right here is, according to Russia, is Russia. And priority one for Russia is to take full control of the regions that they say is Russia. So this is why I think Russia is not going to go into Kiev. They're not going to go into Kharkiv. They're not going to go into Odessa until they secure Donetsk region, this area right here, and they secure Zaporozhye region, which includes the city of Zaporozhye. Then, after taking these regions and announcing to the world that they have now secured the land that they claim is now Russia, then their objectives change if there's no peace agreement. After that, I don't think they're going to go into Kharkiv. I think they're going to save that for later. After that, they're going to go into Mykolaiv and Dnipro. And the reason to go to Mykolaiv is to get to Odessa. You got to go through it. And then if there's still no peace agreement and they take the Dnipro region, Mykolaiv region, Odessa region, they're going to have the same vote. We're not going to get into whether that vote was legit, whether it was coerced, different discussion. After they take these three regions, then Kharkiv would be surrounded on three sides, and then you can take Kharkiv. And after that, if there's still no peace agreement, then I think they're coming down from Belarus. But if that happens, Ukraine will not have anyone else to defend. If all of these four additional regions go, but I think that would be the order of things. Hopefully there is a peace agreement. After Bakhmut falls and what's that other city? Slipping my mind right here. Avdiivka. After these two cities fall, I'm hoping that Ukraine goes to the negotiating table and negotiates peace and a ceasefire. But if they do go to negotiate peace and a ceasefire, Russia is going to demand that Ukraine leave this territory, the Zaporozhye territory and Donbass territory. And this is why Ukraine will probably say no, and that's why there won't be any peace agreement. Well, you don't need to be a military expert. This is grossly obvious. Like, this is the area that Russia used to have that they've now given back to Ukraine. And this is the area as well. Now, this area that Russia has given back to Ukraine is a little bit more interesting because according to Russia, the majority of this area is actually Russian territory. So they're going to go get this back once they've secured the Donbass region and probably Zaporozhye region. Probably. But there's also a natural barrier here with the rivers. But there was no reason for them to stay in the Kharkiv region because technically Kharkiv is still Ukrainian territory. Russia will debate whether this region is still Ukrainian territory or not. But this, they're going to have to get back either way. So this is another region that Russia is going to demand in the negotiation. Like, the only way Russia stops is if Ukraine leaves these four regions completely, and I don't think Ukraine's going to do that. So I'm not expecting a peace agreement anytime soon. Russia's not running out of bullets. Ukraine might, Russia won't. I mean, the war will last until America tells Ukraine to surrender to Russia or Zelensky gets overthrown. Notice I didn't say Putin gets overthrown. If Putin gets overthrown, the war escalates. This ends when America tells Zelensky to surrender, or Zelensky is overthrown, and whoever takes over for Zelensky tells the U.S. to F off. That's what it is. It's one of those two scenarios. China tried to broker a peace deal. US said, go away. By the time Russia takes Odessa, there won't be anybody left to fight. That's the problem. I agree with you. If Russia goes for Odessa now, it's a big problem for Russia. But if Russia goes for Odessa after completely taking the Donetsk region and completely taking the Zaporozhye region, and slowly taking this land of Kherson region back, by the time they do that, Ukraine would lose another 200,000 troops, and there will be nobody left. There'll be people left, but there's not going to be anyone with experience left to fight. It's the same reason why they're not going to try to take Kharkov anytime soon. They would only take Kharkov after they surround it on three sides. It would be crazy to go and try to take Kharkov right now. This is obvious. Clearly, Russia saw this as a big mistake and they pulled out. And it was really hard to keep this region because there was a natural barrier of the river. Ukraine's huge. Ukraine's huge. It's the biggest country in Europe. If you consider Russia, Eurasia, Ukraine is the biggest country in Europe. It's the size of like 12 countries down here. So I don't know why anyone thought that Russia can take it in a week. The country's huge. Had the biggest army by far. Ukrainian army is almost as big as the rest of Europe combined. I mean, Russia probably underestimated the global support, but it wasn't going to be easy. How much longer can Ukraine afford to fight? Well, forever, right? Because America's paying for the war. America's paying Ukraine to fight. And I mean, they will fight till the last male between 18 and 60 dies. I mean, they can afford to fight for quite a while. Ukraine can't afford to fight on their own. The US government is paying all of their government employees. I mean, you can afford to fight when you're fighting with somebody else's money and somebody else's equipment. If Ukraine was on its own, this would be over already. What's the worst that can happen if America lets Russia take Ukraine? Nothing really. America just looks weak and stupid. For America, what's the worst that can happen for Ukraine? They're going to have a pro-Russian government. All right, guys, I'm gonna get going. Thank you all for watching. And I will see you all on the next one. Glance at the price one more time. Yeah, I would not be bullish right now. Yeah, because we approached the prior swing low. But this is good. Like I said, I would never enter long on a day like today, But if tomorrow is a bullish day, then yeah, we can pop to 30,000 easy. And maybe even keep going. But if we keep going to 35, I'm going to expect a serious pullback. All right, guys. Talk to you all on the next one.